In this movie, we'll be talking about borders. If you want to follow along, open up border.html from your working files folder. There are a number of new border-related properties that you can use with CSS3. We're going to start off talking about border image. Now for all of these, you can always go to caniuse.com and search for border. You can see that CSS border radius is fairly well supported, so I'm going to actually scroll past that. And CSS border images is not as well supported. What we're about to talk about, border images, is not supported until IE version 11. That means it'll probably be a couple years before we can consistently use it and feel confident that everyone will roughly see the same thing. Let's start out with a simple border. Here I've said border 5 pixels, solid, and a color. Now we're used to seeing this isn't anything new. Border image allows you to take an image such as this one and use the top left corner for the top left corner of your div, the top right corner for the top right corner of your div, etc. And then the little areas in between for the top and right and left and bottom edges. Now this seems a little bit complicated when I'm explaining it in words, so let's just take a look at what it looks like. First of all, I'll comment out my border and I'm going to make a 20 pixel solid transparent border. Now that border is currently invisible because it's transparent. To make it visible, we're going to use border image. Border image takes a couple different parameters. First of all, it takes a URL. Then it takes a width and a height and a parameter that indicates the way we're going to repeat the border image. Let's take a look at what this now looks like. So if I go back to my image here, you can see that the upper left corner is used over here. The upper right corner is used over here. The area in between here is repeated. When we say repeat, that's what we're talking about. What happens in between? There are actually a number of different possibilities here. Stretch is another one. And it'll actually take that and stretch it all the way wide and all the way tall. I'll explain the 2020 in just a moment when we talk about the border image generator. That's linked to right down here. I do want to show you the third one. We started out by typing repeat. But you'll notice that sometimes the repeat isn't perfect. Look right here. This dot gets cut off, and that dot gets cut off. If I make it a little bit bigger, it looks a lot better. But instead of making sure that my div is the right size, instead I'd rather have border image do something to fix that repeat. And it turns out that's very easy to do. If you type round, it will round up or down to the closest and then stretch these guys to be just perfect. Now that might not make sense with me explaining it in English words, but if you watch the dots as I resize, you'll see it snaps, snaps, snaps as I resize. That's because it is squishing these or stretching them so that way they fit perfectly. If it's a little bit too big, it'll just add another one. So that's a great way of creating a nice, beautiful border image. You can imagine you could do that with an ornate frame image or any number of other things. Now this image here, you're probably going to be making in Photoshop or some other graphics editor. Let's take a quick look at our border image generator. This is borderimage.com. This is the image that they're giving us to start with, and you can see what the preview down here looks like. Right now it's on vertical repeat and horizontal repeat of repeat, not round, not stretch. So that's the reason that those don't line up perfectly. If I change it to round, it'll look perfect. But there may be a little bit of interpolation since it's stretching or squishing the image. Now the 2020, if you look at the image slice 9 brown, you'll see that it's indeed 60 pixels by 60 pixels. So basically what we're saying is take that slice 9 brown image and slice it up into 20 pixels from the left and 20 pixels from the top for this corner. So if I change these numbers here, effectively what it's doing is it's changing what area is going to be up in the corner and what area is not. Now this looks a little wacky, but the top corner is actually just this little guy right here. And then this is the top edge. And then from here downward, that's all this area here, looping. So you can spend some time, maybe even upload your own image here, and play around with it, see what it would look like. If I open this guy up here, you can see here's the image. And as I drag it around, you can see how this is affected. Border image is a really fun thing to play around with. Again, because the browser support isn't super great right now, it may not be the best thing to put in a production website where each browser needs to look the same. But at the very least, it's fun to play with.